Hello and welcome to the channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Kieran and Career with Kieran is based around three key points. So you've got career advice, communication skills and personal finance. And as you'll have seen from this title, we're going to be discussing how to build wealth in your 20s. Now, I said the term wealth very deliberately, and that's because there's a very big difference between building wealth and getting rich. Yes, they're going towards the same goal, but the methods and realities of this is very different. And it could be very tempting to say big, bold capital letters that how to get rich in your 20s. But in actual fact, my ambition here is to be honest and transparent with you and actually give you meaningful advice that you can all actually action in your own personal lives. Now, when we begin here, I want to start with a disclaimer that this advice can be used for anyone, regardless of whether your salary is in £10,000 or it's £110,000. All of this is going to be something that you can directly action today. And again, hopefully this is something that if you start now, it's going to have a meaningful impact for you over the rest of your life and hopefully your family's lives as well. It is a science to it and it can be replicated by anyone. So listen up and hopefully we'll get you on that path as soon as possible. Now, following the format of my past couple of videos, again, if you haven't seen those, I'll link those in the description below. I'm going to be breaking it down into 5 key tips. First of which is not the most exciting, but it is the most important, and that is budgeting. Now, one of the most useful I've personally found is what I'd call the rule of thirds. What do I mean by that? What it means is that in your monthly income, you should be breaking that down into 3 key areas. So a third of your salary should be going into your accommodation, again, no more than that ideally. Then your expenses, whether that's your food, your Netflix, your phone, and a third should be put into your savings. Now, this is a guideline. You don't have to be completely tied to this, but it should give you a very good indicator of what's going to be sustainable over a long term, instead of say buying this expensing holiday or suddenly you're paying 50% for your rent. If you're looking to build wealth over a long period of time, that's not going to be possible if you're living in the fanciest of apartments and you're only saving 5% of your income. So it's a very good rule of thumb to get you in that right direction from an early stage. Now, taking a step back from the rule of thirds, I want to go back to actually measuring your budget, actually seeing how much you're bringing in each month, how much is going out. And there's a number of ways to actually do this. Some of the classic ways, such as Microsoft Excel, is great. That's what I personally do. But then there's a lot of technology that's actually going to help you with that as well. One of which is very popular here in the UK is Monzo, the pink salmon cards that's actually going to break down and itemize all the different areas where you're spending money. And again, that's going to help you identify trends. Outside of the UK, there's great websites such as mint.com. And there's also a similar version of this, which is available here in the UK, which is called Pocketsmith, where you can actually upload bank statements and itemize the cost and actually predict what your leftover disposable income is going to be at the end of the month. So there's a lot of ways of doing this. And again, as soon as you're aware of how much you're spending on things like Starbucks or on buying lunch every day is sometimes a downfall of my own. It's something that you're going to realize how much you could save if you make other choices with your money. The whole point in this is that once you understand how much you actually have to play with, you can understand where you can move stuff from one column, such as outgoings, which aren't particularly necessary, and reallocate those to your investments, your savings, which again is going to help you towards your savings ambitions. Number 2, and this is one of the most important that you're going to get here, is a credit card. This is something that I didn't learn for far too long, is that you shouldn't be paying for anything using a debit card. Everything should be going through the credit card, and it's something that the credit cards can often have a stigma attached, and the trap falling into accumulating big credit card debts. It doesn't need to. You almost treat it as a debit card, but you get benefits from it. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that each month you should be putting everything on, whether it's your travel, your foods, your refreshments, on a credit card, and then at the end of the month, pay it all off every month. And each time that goes, your credit score is going to be ticking up, ticking up, ticking up. And when that time, you're going to have a better credit score, and it's going to allow you to make better purchases, say mortgages with low interest rates when you want them. But again, if you don't do it early enough, by the time that you realize the importance of this, it's going to be too late, and it's going to have a detrimental impact on your ability to buy houses or make other larger financial decisions. So again, the sooner you do this, the better. So today, make yourself a credit card application. It doesn't particularly matter which one. Again, whether it's a bank that you're comfortable, again, do your research, but as long as you're moving from debit card to credit card, straight away your credit score will thank you, and future you will thank you a lot as well. So get yourself on a credit card. Number 3 is paying down debt. Now, Graham Stephan, one of my favorite YouTubers, I'll link his channel in the description below, talks about the importance of paying down bad debt, and he uses a guideline of paying down anything over 4%. I agree to the vast majority of this, with one exception here in the UK, which is your student loan. And it's something, the way that works here in the UK is that anything over like 26,500 annual salary, you need to pay 9% of that back over the top. And there's no real benefit to paying back any earlier, because again, after 30 years, it's going to be completely wiped anyway. So for the majority of debt, particularly if it's above 4%, yeah, you want to be paying down that aggressively. But make sure that you do read the fine print on these loans, and make sure that you're not potentially paying something down too aggressively when you don't need to. Now, the next topic I want to discuss is something called lifestyle inflation. Now, hopefully, if you followed the career advice that I'm outlining for you here, you'll have the opportunity to go through the ranks quite rapidly during your 20s. And with that, hopefully follows an increase in compensation as well. Now, lifestyle inflation is a very easy trap to fall into. When your compensation increases, so do your outgoings. You're going on nicer holidays, maybe you're buying a nice watch, or maybe you've moved into a fancier apartment, and suddenly the amount that you're saving each month is exactly the same as when you're in a more junior position earning less money. So it's really important to be cognizant of how much you're spending each month, and try and minimize how much that goes up if you do increase your salary, because chances are you were happy before and you can put that money to much better use. And this links very nicely into the next section, which I want to discuss, which is investments. Now, there's a whole different range of investing your money, and that can range from anything such as a high interest savings account, which is great for putting stuff like an emergency fund, 6 months of savings, which you can fall back on in times of recession, redundancy, stuff like that. That's great. However, for this segment, I really want to dedicate this time into talking about the stock market. Now, there's a great little app which I've been using here in the UK called Free Trade, and this is something that I'll do a dedicated video on as well. But a lot of the most popular trading apps, such as Robinhood, Charles Schwab, you don't have access to as a UK resident, and so I'll be walking you through how you can utilize that to get yourself in the stock market here in the UK. And again, this advice is directly applicable if you are outside the UK using Robinhood, Charles Schwab, anything like that. And make sure that, again, you put that money to work instantly, because if you've got a lot of your money sitting in a current account with next to no interest, it's going to make your life much, much more difficult. So I personally have 2 strategies when it comes to investing. So half my money goes in index funds such as the FTSE 100, S&P 500, and the rest of my money goes into dividend stocks. Dividends like you've got your BPs, your AbbVies, your McDonald's, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, all of which pay you a quarterly sum in order to hold on to their money. Again, I'll go into this in much further detail in future videos, but again, just pointing in the direction which we'll be taking. Why do you need to go to all this effort? Now, with current accounts, they've got ridiculously low interests, and they're really not going to be doing anything for you. You might see a few pence each year. When you go into a high interest savings account, you might be talking about a couple of percent. Say, in my case, I use First Direct. It's got a 2.5% interest rate, which is pretty good, and for my money, the best choice here in the UK. But when you're talking about index funds, that interest rates, if you're buying and holding, you'll be getting 6-7%. Or if you're lucky enough, in my situation where I bought in fairly heavily at the time of the dip back in March, you can be talking 10-20% returns very quickly. And again, that would take you years and years and years if you're just using traditional banking methods. So again, stock market really is the way to go. And I'll be walking you through the whole way of how to make that a reality. But again, if you're here in the UK, free trade would be my recommendation of choice. Now, again, this is just scratching the surface of what I want to cover in terms of personal finance on this channel. But again, thank you very much for watching. If you liked it, please remember to hit the like button from there. Again, we'll be doing a whole series around the topics I've discussed today. Get yourself a credit card sooner rather than later. And otherwise, I will speak to you soon. Bye for now.